Morning, everyone. Monday, Lamont Gilchrist, L.G.Fitness-Messiah.com is my web page. Lamont Gilchrist Natty, Lamont Gilchrist Natural Bodybuilder on YouTube. So I'm still going to stick to the format that I used last week, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to talk about some social issues, and we're going to do a little bit of science so that people can get an understanding of what's going on inside their body. I'm looking at my little notes that I took. Like I said, I do research all the time if I'm not with clients and stuff, because that's just what I like to do. So let's get into an understanding about excuse me, what's going on inside the body from a cellular level when it comes to eating, nutrition, obesity, and the process that's going on at a cellular level, dealing with the muscle, dealing with the liver, dealing with your brain, and then also dealing with fat storage. So when we eat foods, and most of these foods that we eat today are loaded with sugars because it's an easy and a cheap filler with no real density or nutritional density other than, sugar, raising insulin levels, stuff like that. So, and inside sugars, there's different bonds on sugars that gives them different molecules like lactose, maltose, fructose, regular corn syrup. But most things are high fructose corn syrup. So even inside of those different bonds, there are different reactions or starches and stuff like that. So, so all sugars aren't the same. So some sugars can just go and don't have to be converted in the liver, or isn't stored in the liver, or doesn't back up and be stored in the liver, and can just actually go into the muscle, go to brain function, and go just directly into the muscle and be utilized as energy. Once the sugar get inside the muscle, we're going to talk about the muscle cell right now, then it goes through a process of a whole bunch of chemical changes in a cytoplasm inside the muscle, inside the cell of the membrane. The cell goes through a whole bunch of changes, and at the end of the changes, it turns into an energy source that we can use to fire off the muscles and go through the Krebs cycle called ATP. So after it goes through this whole big process, it's a big chemical process, about 20 different things happen, and so there's a whole lot of different things that go on. But the gist of it, then we can utilize that as fuel, be it right there inside the cytoplasm of the muscle cell, or it can take a little bit deeper to depth inside the mitochondria to actually be used as oxygen from pyruvate or whatever pyruvate being done, and then going through the aerobic part of that capacity. So inside the cytoplasm is the anaerobic part of the capacity, where the byproduct could be lactic acid and some other stuff. And then it goes into the mitochondria, pyruvate, where oxygen, and then it actually is unique. We're so advanced that it actually converts back to ADP, or a byproduct, and they add it, and you can get more ATP from it. So the problem inside the cell from a exercise standpoint is that lactic acid, or the pyruvate that can be converted, is way more efficient and faster than the oxygen part of the cell, especially in heavy, high, intense exercising, to stimulate the use of that sugar, or at that particular time is glycogen, inside that cell. So that's the exercising part of it. Now, what happens with people who are obese, or the overweight part of it, and I want you people to understand, what happens is that a couple of different things happen for people who are overweight, or people who store fat at a high intensity. You can go back and look at some of my old videos. I talk about melanin, how it attracts fat, so different races store different places, and then where you were located, where your ancestral location, how close you were to the equator, how close you was to the polar caps and stuff like that. Temperature, environment played a part. And so being a young civilization, you know, these things have, you know, developed over thousands, if not millions of years. So we still share those characteristics and have those same responses and reactions as our ancestors did, as far as like being efficient to use body fat, utilize it, store it, and other things and stuff like that. So what happened with fat people is something that's really unique, and I don't mean fat in a sense of a derogatory meaning, but meaning that a person who stores fat or whose body is into storing body fat and not utilizing that glycogen or glucose or blood sugar, or doesn't do it efficiently. So there's a process that happens. So exercising can affect that whole muscle cellular curve level thing, with insulin pushing the glucose into the muscle or into fat cells or to wherever it got to go as a receptor so that it could get into there. So what happens is, what happened with people who are fat or who store body fat or who are obese or however you want to call it, is that they're actually really starving. That's why they keep going back and eating a lot, because their muscles are malnourished because they can't get that insulin into there efficiently because it's backed up. So what happens when you back it up and it can't go into the cytoplasm part of it is filled, it can't go into the mitochondria, it makes a citrulline and it goes back up and create an enzyme and it goes back out into the bloodstream or into your body. The bad thing about that is that the body will produce an enzyme to tell the body not to put insulin onto that muscle cell or to the powerhouse of what moves your body and everything else like that, because it's full. So it just goes through the cytoplasm, or it just goes straight and it'll bond because there is no enzyme created to the fat cell that tells the body to stop storing it as triglycerides, body fat, or converting it into body fat. So it bypassed even going through the muscle. So the actual metabolism or the fuel source or the fuel house of the body is not functioning correctly, and then you have they're not sensitive to insulin, or insulin can't get glycogen or glucose down into the muscle efficiently, so it just pushes it into the fat cells. So that's why you get these up and down spikes and everything else like that. So really, a person that is obese or a person that eats that particular way, or the types of foods that you eat, will actually make you be malnourished in the muscle, or basically anorexic in the muscle, but obese in the lipids or the fat cells outside your body. So you have two different properties going on in an anabolic situation where other things are growing, where cancers and other particular things and stuff like that, cysts and stuff are growing. But in the most important part, to be the fuel source of the body, it is very malnourished and it's deteriorating. So you have the worst of both worlds is that, and then if you're not active, so it's deteriorating, you're losing density to it, and you're storing more body fat. And then you have all these other symptoms and signs and stuff that start going on as far as sicknesses and stuff like that. So I see people and they're really happy, and I'm really happy for them when people say, well, I lost weight. That's great. That's always great. To lose weight is great. But if you're losing weight at a rate because you're still malnourished and you're still not actually changing that whole curve, mitochondria, oxygen, insulin sensitivity situation inside your body, anabolic situation that's going on inside your body, then you are deteriorating. You can lose fat, and you can lose inches, and you can lose muscle pretty much at the same rate. So now you have less of a metabolism, and so you are going to be even more malnourished going forward. You're going to have more problems and be more prone to sicknesses and other things, diseases and stuff of that particular nature. And then what actually usually happen after that, if depending on how you were able to lose that weight, you still haven't cured or you still haven't solved the insulin sensitivity, muscle absorption things going to where it needs to go process inside your body. So once you start eating, or you start eating things that has sugar-based, high fructose corn syrup and everything else like that, the body is brilliant. It's going to remember what happened last time, and so guess what? It's going to store even more, because it's going to make sure that it doesn't go through a famine again of that particular sort, because it was already starving in the first place. So you become locked into this paradox or this paradigm of where you're starving your body, and then you're putting it back on, you're starving your body. Yeah, you're changing the outer biomechanics and the outer appearance of your body. Fat cells shrink and water can shrink them and other things and stuff like that. But you're not changing the cellular level of what's going on inside of your body. So you're going to always be suffering, or always, and people who exist like that, be malnourished inside where it really count and have a terrible metabolism. I hope this helps, because a lot of times people read articles and people tell them things that are not actually true. You know, this is a process, and this is something that I knew 20 years ago, you know, but they redefine and rename things, you know, but medical doctors, health doctors, or magazine articles and stuff like that don't give you this information, because if they just get you going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down on their products, which really isn't really what's affecting you. They are, because they're limiting your supply. Then once you get frustrated and you can't continue to stay with it, then we put the supply back in. Then they'll limit your supply again on another little thing, saying something, then you'll put it back in. And so you'll yo-yo up and down forever. You know, they're never really addressing the issue, because once again, they're not really interested in fixing the problem. They're more interested in having residual income off of your misery and your lack of education, or your lack of knowledge of how to deal with the problem. So that's my social biological reasoning for why it is hard for certain people to keep not yo-yo and keep body fat off. And that's the cellular level inside the muscle, inside the actual metabolism part of the body. And don't get me wrong, fat cells actually have a metabolism, but it's way less efficient than muscle metabolism. And so if you're tapping into your muscle metabolism and you're not stimulating your muscle metabolism, and you're not being able to get these things through that curb system and out of your body as energy, then you're going to be suffering super bad. That took longer than I wanted it to take. So I guess I'll save the one tomorrow. I was going to talk about cardiovascular health and cardiovascular exercising, because there's a lot of myth out there about cardio, and there's a difference between that, and I'll just touch on it a little bit. You can do high intensity exercising and it'll affect cardiovascular health longer than actually doing cardio, because of the way that the body has to utilize that pyruvate in a curb system that I was talking about, and then how your body will keep producing that along with the lactic acid, and then your mitochondria will keep accepting it with oxygen as it becomes more efficient throughout the rest of the day when you do cardio and stimulate that system, as opposed to, you know, the lung pounding types of cardio stuff and things of that particular nature. And cardio don't just have to be done with your legs. You will want your whole body to be cardiovascularly efficient. That's the way that I train my athletes, and their whole body is cardiovascularly efficient. So if your legs is cardiovascularly efficient, and you make your arms and chest and everything else cardiovascular efficient, then you're going to be burning more calories. You're going to have a better cardiovascular circulation to all parts of your body, which in turn is going to get a better response to nutrition, macro and micro, and energy getting into the mitochondria, or getting into the cell all the way through the mitochondria and going through the complete curb system But I'll save that. I just wanted to touch on that. My last point, I don't really like getting personal all the time, but I'm going to get a little bit of personal. The people that are teaching our young people, no matter what the situation is, no matter whatever it is that you think is really going on, it's not classrooms for the most part. They go in and they complete the work and they learn what it is they got to learn and memorize whatever it is that they tell them, which is usually fragmented information, only from one perspective. But TVs, the environment that they're in outside, communities and what they see others do, and for some of our young people who are unfortunate to have to go to the youth center, group homes, and prison, that's where they're learning how to become young men and how to become young women in situations and stuff like that, which is very hard. I truly understand working in a situation and going through that whole process of personally going through that process. So me personally, this is one thing that I do. I send books to individuals or people once a month. I might pick out somebody, a random person, someone in their prison or a situation like that, to bring them up to awareness and conscious awareness so that they can pass that around. Like in prison, a butt man is worth a gazillion dollars. Porn books or certain things. These are trading materials. These are how you function, make money, eat, get down. This is wars are started over there. This is gambling. It started. It's a whole environment inside itself. But you know, and so they learn those different aspects, and depending on what group they're running with or how they're moving or what predator or whatever's going on inside of there, that's how they go get in, and then that's how their mind is going to develop. But when you send information, like I said I do, back into alpha people who may not ever be getting out, they still have a responsibility to the young and to the people that are getting out to inform, to guide, and give them information and knowledge. So if you make the people that are in there more knowledgeable, because we're not going to change the situation because people go to jail, prison, and things and stuff like that. Some races more than others. So if that's where we're going to have to mature and become young men and do other stuff and things like that, let's put aside, you know, this person did this person did this person did this. Reach in and reach out and try to educate these people about the realities of what's going on in the society and bring them up to consciousness. When they're up to consciousness, then they can share that consciousness with young people, and that's how you reform these prison systems. It's not about expecting the government or expecting officials to reform this thing. They just want to reform it enough so that it's the second biggest, from our last research, it was the second biggest industry in the United States outside of agriculture and stuff of that particular nature. So none of them are going to really want to solve this residual income problem. I mean, they are promising privatized prisons that they will keep a 90-some% capacity rate. How can you make that promise? I mean, because it just goes to show you that they can just pluck people out of the environment or out of communities and throw them in prison for whatever they deem fit, because their scale of justice is not weighed equally. You know, their scale of justice, it is tilted to the system and to how they wanted to perform. Just plain and simple. And if you don't understand it and you've never been through the criminal justice system and you never had to deal with that type of situation, then you definitely wouldn't get a picture of this. But even though we may not fix that problem, which we could, because economics, if you boycott and don't spend, will change people's ideal, because people are going to change for their money or for their lifestyle. But, you know, we don't have enough organization, people in general, or us as a civilization to understand that. But instead of worrying about the problem, and, you know, there's always another way to look at a solution to a problem. And if that's the case, that be it that people have to go through these particular systems and situations, then let's try to get them affected in another way and hold people who are in it for a long period of time or whatever and make them conscious and hold them accountable for serving their duty to our communities as these people or as people come back out of prison or as young people are in it, and help them to develop and become enlightened, young, more educated and aware of what's going on people as they come back out into society, because that BS that they put them through, them BS groups and those BS systems that they got up there, is just to get more federal money. It is not rehabilitation. It is not to help people become better or understand the world out here or become conscious of what's going on out here. It is systematically set up to make it a revolving situation so that you have residual income, and that's just the facts. You look at all the studies, statistics, and all this other stuff, that's what happens. And if someone don't believe what I'm saying, show me some research that says something different, and I'll apologize and I'll move on and say I was wrong. I have no problem with saying that. But I know that to be true from the inside and from the outside. So I hope this information helped. Reach out to somebody. Remember, you have to sometimes work with people or things or situations that are out of your control for the betterment of everything, and that's called moving forward and having answers and solving problems, as opposed to bickering because of differences and because of your own personal feelings. It's very hard to do, but you know, a lot of times you have to set your feelings aside to make progress or to move forward, especially in a civilization or in a community or even in a household. Once again, my name is Lamont Gilchrist. Enjoy your day. Peace.